In 2016, a new approach to the leadership of learning and teaching was introduced by Glyndwr University. The university had originally adopted a centralised approach to leadership of learning and teaching, and although this was successful, a new management team was formed which began to question the responsiveness of the centralised methodology with regards to innovation and change. The work of John Kotter suggested that the performance of hierarchical centralised management structures could be improved by the creation of informal networks operating in parallel within the organisation. Project lead Professor Claire Taylor explains the impetus behind the creation of a dual operating system and describes the importance of the key elements that have enabled the project at Glyndwr to progress effectively.
So we established our distributed approach to educational development work here at Glyndwr University in September 2016. Previously there had been a central educational development unit, which is a traditional way of dealing with educational development across higher education, but that had been closed 2 years previously. And really we had an opportunity to do something different. And we wanted to do something that would really enable us to respond in a more energetic and agile way and creative way to the demands across the higher education sector for increased focus on teaching excellence, on teaching quality and on enhancement activity. So in September 2016 we established a core academic development team, and we supplemented that in September 2017 with a network of academic development team associates who come from across the university, from across different departments, both professional support services and across academic discipline areas. So the team works in a kind of networked way, and we follow the principles of John Kotter's dual operating system. This is where an agile network of change agents works alongside the more traditional management hierarchy. This means that the management can get on with business as usual, and the agile network can really focus on change projects, can think about different and innovative and creative ways to approach teaching and learning enhancement and change. And we're really starting to see traction across a range of projects. For example, we've been looking at assessment and feedback across the university. We've been working on our peer observation of teaching scheme. We've been supporting staff with our higher education academy applications, and we've also been really moving forwards with our approaches to technology enhanced learning. And as I said, a key feature of this is that our associates work across disciplines, working with each other across discipline and curriculum boundaries. And that means that we get some interesting mix of ideas, mix of approaches, rather than the siloed approach that can sometimes get in the way of creativity and get in the way of thinking outside of the box, if you like. So we're very pleased with how the approach is going so far.
As highlighted by Professor Taylor, Kotter's work provides the main principle of operation for the academic development team's activities. Kotter believes that most large organisations evolve hierarchical management structures because they are a necessity to make an organisation work. He also believes that in order to get the best performance and harness innovation, organisations need to accelerate their processes. He advises that this can be achieved by embracing innovation, improving productivity, introducing strategic change, nurturing cultural change, creating profitable growth. However, he also warns that factors inherently residing inside the hierarchical structure could slow down the acceleration of progress due to limited numbers of leaders of change, silo mentalities, complacency and fear of change, pressures to meet existing targets, restrictive rules and procedures. The structure that Kotter suggests as a solution to this stalling of acceleration breaks away from the standard hierarchical model and is represented as a distributed network. It complements and coexists with the hierarchical traditional management structure, offering accelerated gains in agility and productivity. In short, the result is a dual operating system. Further explanation of how this works in practice is supplied by the Academic Development Team core members.
The expansion of the ADT team to include associates was a key strategy to accelerate the adoption and urgency for innovation. It aligns to Kotter's theory of a guiding coalition who champion change in a distributed network. The recruitment process for the associate roles requested volunteers who'd be prepared to take on institutional roles on projects that would be in addition to the usual work. This was a new approach to the usual mechanisms for change that would generally involve the appointments of small numbers of managers tasked with overseeing change as a function of their new roles. Kotter argues that this can be counterproductive and that it's more productive to appoint people who have a want-to rather than a have-to philosophy, in other words, volunteers. The volunteering aspect was seen as essential in order to create large numbers of energised change agents amongst the distributed network, who would champion change and communicate the work effectively and quickly amongst their peer networks. When the positions were advertised, the work of the ADT had already gained momentum and the direction and responsibilities for the team members were well established. This resulted in the work of the group becoming visible across the university and raised the profile of the ADT across the schools. The application process consisted of an expression of interest that would allow selection to be based upon evidence of a commitment to learning and teaching, and also being willing to go the extra mile. The guidance for the roles included phrases that were designed to appeal to the aspiration and motivation of the applicants, listing opportunities such as influence and drive change, network cross-institutionally, and key personal skills were also required of the applicants, including commitment, the ability to problem solve, divergent thinking, all mapping directly to the head and heart principle of the programme. The response to the expression of interest call was extremely positive. In total, 22 associates were recruited, with representation across the schools and professional services. 6 individual strands of activity were created that would champion specific areas of interest to the ADT. Each of the strands were allocated to an ADT member to lead, and each of the associates were included in one or more of the working teams.
So the distributed model does not in itself guarantee success. It's quite a complex set of arrangements involving staff across the university from academic departments, operational departments, the student union and student union representatives. In our experience, there have been a number of factors which have enabled successful delivery. These are clear alignment between the projects that we're undertaking with the strategic goals of the university. Another key factor has been the role played by the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, who has given visible leadership to the project. She's championed the project, raised its profile and consolidated the model through attendance at learning lunches, academic forums and staff conferences. The teams have been empowered to act through formally recognised roles. Each of the associate heads of school has been given responsibility for individual projects aligned to the university's overarching objectives. There is also alignment between the project groups and the decision-making processes. This has given us a real opportunity to change policy and make a difference. And this really has provided a real motivating factor for members to take part in the groups, remain in the groups, and to work with us in the future. We have also recognised that there are some potential limiting factors. The key ones here are the potential for role ambiguity. The individuals have, in essence, 2 roles. They may have their teaching role or their operational role, but they are also taking a leadership role. And we need to then balance those roles to make sure they don't conflict. So moving forward, we've recognised that we need to ensure that we motivate and sustain interest, building in opportunities for reflection and celebrating success.
Over the past year, the Academic Development Team, through a distributed approach, has led a number of project streams aimed at enhancing learning, teaching and assessment across the university. Along with the Academic Development Team associates, these project teams have seen some early successes. The Assessment and Feedback Group has gathered significant information about the way in which we currently assess and give feedback to our learners. As a result, this group will be sharing their findings and will make recommendations to our Learning Teaching Quality Committee and Academic Board that will enhance the way in which we assess and give feedback going forward. Assessment has also been the focus of a series of monthly learning lunches, and these have been popular with both academic staff and support services. Our Technology Enhanced Learning project is looking at further development of our virtual learning environment and how we can effectively support our learners. A virtual learning environment essentials course has been developed with a number of staff currently undertaking this module. Another project stream has supported monthly writing workshops for staff applying for professional recognition with the Higher Education Academy. This has resulted with increased engagement with the CPD scheme, and to date, 18 members of staff have achieved fellowship of the HEA, with additional writing workshops still to be held. A peer observation of teaching policy has also been developed by another project stream. This is designed to engage staff in sharing good practice and supporting the enhancement of the quality of learning and teaching through collaborative and dialogic discussions amongst peers. A foundation year task force was also set up this year, with a new foundation year being implemented in 2019. A new foundation year coordinator has been appointed to oversee this project. The academic development team is excited by the number of projects that have been developed over the past year as a result of the new approach. The use of the academic development team, supported by academic development team associates, has enabled the projects to move relatively quickly and achieve significant outcomes as a result that will enhance and improve the quality of the student learning experience.
So those were the thoughts of the academic development team core members. But did our associates perceive the project in the same way? Firstly, the barriers.
Difficulties in terms of the taking on an extra role, even though of course it was very, very part-time. I described the academic calendar as a production line divided into 52 rotations, which is each year, and we can't put a spanner in it. It has to keep going. That's the critical issue, that often really taking on an additional task means that you stay later or arrive earlier because the day job is already full. And I think you either accept that you're going to do that or not take the role on.
The main thing is time, is just making sure that we allocate a specific amount of time for meetings, and making sure that we've just got the time to just be there for when we need to actually implement each job or task that we've been allocated.
The challenges to being an ADT associate are predominantly time-based, I would imagine, and the fact that we have full working loads and this is an additional role. So it's about finding time and managing your diary really effectively to make sure you can make it to the meetings, but also put in like a little bit of the research, a little bit of the work that's required to take this work forward.
It's difficult to get us all in one place at the same time, to come back and feed back what we've all been finding out, and to be able to make decisions together. There are ways around that, of course. We've been using the VLE. We've got a site on there where we can share information, and Jane usually posts minutes on there from meetings, so if you've missed, you can have a look, and we've got discussion forum and that kind of thing.
Time and role ambiguity was definitely a factor. But what about the positive aspects?
The factors that helped me take this role up was that I had support from my manager and head of school. Initially, the head of school was a bit worried that it would take too much time out of my everyday work, but once we got clarification from the Deputy Vice-Chancellor that it was part of my role that I work with, then it was fine. So I think the support of the manager and your head is really important in being able to take up this role.
The factors that helped me undertake the associate role, mainly was that it wasn't too heavy an additional workload. So it was a series of informal meetings where I took current policies and current work practices and discussed them with other staff members from different schools. So it didn't feel particularly like it was additional work. It felt like I was learning something.
I think the fact that everybody who's working in the associate's role is really supportive, really open. They are people that you can just go and knock on the door or give them a call and say, I've been thinking about this, I've been looking at this, and they're always really happy to chat those ideas through with you.
More importantly, what did the associates gain from the project?
I would say from being an associate, it's the connection with different people that's the main gain. So it's been really positive and great to work on a project, and we will see the outcomes of that as we change the regs because it's still fluid at the moment. But I've attended learning lunches as a result of being involved, and people who were on our project were giving those learning lunches. Also, it's given me the opportunity to actually find out who different people in the organisation are and what their role is, and then go and see them separately about my work. And I think we're making some positive changes in our area as a result of the connections we've made, which will have an impact on students.
A lot of experience I've gained, and a lot of knowledge in the way that other areas and disciplines work, which I didn't know previously. And I think that's really helped me to understand students' points of views as well. So if there are any sort of areas that maybe are negative for students, I can kind of see why, because it's so different from what I've experienced, which is so positive. So it's nice to be able to see both sides, and gain more experience through that.
In terms of gaining from any new role, I'm always minded across the university, and in the time that I've been here, if I take something new or different on, I meet new people. I meet people, and I may have known their names, I may have seen their email address, but I don't actually know them. It's the opportunity to discuss central matters with colleagues from other departments because they have a different perspective. And so there's an exchange of views which hopefully will lead to good practice or best practice, which is really what the project was aiming to do, or at least one of the aims of the project. That's the main thing for me, is the opportunity to talk and be out of the day-to-day job.
As demonstrated in this short film, the approach suggested by Kotter can be applied to academic development in a higher education environment. The team are confident that the early gains can be repeated in other areas and look forward to embracing Kotter's approach further.